And there is something very nice that we're doing with USCSI. That is something that we call the concierge commerce. Concierge commerce basically is the possibility for you to have a sales rep joining a call live with one of the customers while the customer is navigating into the website. And eventually, even if the customer needs help, to place the order on behalf of the customer.
All right. So I always appreciate getting to know new people. Sometimes this community feels really small and incestuous, and then you realize there are just so many people that are out there that you haven't had a chance to meet. So Daniela, it's just really a pleasure to be able to meet you and get to know you on this recording and podcast.
It is my pleasure, Justin, to be here. As I mentioned to you before, we had the chance to meet some of the other team members from the B2BEA community. But I mean, it's the first time that I actually have the chance to talk to you. So
yeah,
you're the star of the show. So it is a pleasure to be here with you.
We're recording this about a week after our inaugural Scottsdale B2B e-commerce world event. Man, it was just so tremendous and remarkable, and the relationships. I know you had 2 or 3 of your people there, and you had some customers there that we'll chat about today. But I'm curious, just on the personal side, I know you've been at VTEX for about a decade. What kind of brought you into commerce when you all got started?
Yeah, let's go back 10 years in history. So at that time, I was living in Brazil. I don't know how much you already know and all the audience about VTEX, but VTEX is originally from Brazil. And this is where my story connects and it starts with VTEX. I was already there. I was working for a software company, and they were looking to expand into LATAM. So basically, I had the technology background, I had the commercial background, and I had the LATAM background. So I decided to join them with a very visionary kind of plan. Mariano, who is the co-founder up until today, he's still co-founder and co-CEO of the company. He was the one that brought me in, and since that moment, I've been in love with commerce, with digital, with transformation. I think we have a unique value proposition, and this is what have kept me basically with VTEX and with the company for the last 10 years. Even if in different regions, it's amazing to go to a new country and understand how the challenges are completely different. Sometimes they're similar, sometimes they're different. And for a Brazilian company, is I'll tell you something, it's even more exciting because no one is expecting like a Brazilian company to come from of nowhere and sells you the best digital commerce platform of the world. So I believe we're really, really making history. And yeah, it's been 10 fantastic years with the company so far.
You've lived a bunch of different places. What's your favorite place you've ever lived?
Well, my husband won't agree with me, but I actually love New York. I really love where we live. We don't live in the city itself; we live in the suburbs. So you basically have this mix of big city with a small city, a lot of green. You have a lot of space. It's great for kids. I have a son that is 5 years old. The schools are awesome. So I really find this place a fantastic place. My husband would definitely say Milan in Italy. So
Milan.
that's where we disagree. Yeah, yeah.
How long did you guys live in Milan?
We were there for 4 years. I
Oh
moved
wow.
in 2019, towards the end of 2019. VTEX didn't have like any kind of presence in Italy by that time, and we were really looking to expand our presence in Europe. The retail, of course, the fashion, the luxury of Italy made it very appealing for us. So I moved there, started from scratch, working from co-work, basically office, getting the website in. At that time, we used a lot the website, not as much as not as much today, but at that time that was kind of the main sales tool. So since translating the website to knocking the first doors, getting the first partners, getting the first customers, making the first marketing events, it was all like basically starting from scratch and creating my own company. So it was an amazing experience.
How do you guys differ, or differentiate B2B from B2C? And do you find it necessary to do that inside even your company when talking to manufacturers and distributors versus brands and retailers?
Yeah, I love the question. So I'm going to separate from a go to market and product perspective. Your answer, if you're fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
From a product perspective, I think the real value comes from the fact that we're still talking about one single engine, is one single platform. And this brings a lot of benefits when you're talking to a company that is looking to do B2C and B2B, because basically they don't need to have different instances. They don't have to do like ERP integration from scratch for each of the business lines. They don't need to upload the catalog again if they're going to sell for B2B or B2C. So it's very simple from the day-to-day management and day-to-day operation, because there is a lot of things that you can just reuse from what you have already built, for example, for B2C when they're going to go for B2B. But even if we're talking about the same platform, it still gives you the possibility to segmentate and treat those businesses as different businesses. So just to give an example, if you need to have a different experience in the front end layer, if you need to have a different navigation, if you need to have different price tables for B2B, if you need to have sales reps and offer a different experience for sales reps than what you offer for the other B2B customers, that's still possible. So it's very, I would say, unique in the sense that it unifies, it really unifies. And I hate when people use this word in a, like nonsense way, because it's a very important value to offer to a customer. But again, at the same time, it gives you the possibility to just treat each channel as a separate channel with its unique features and personalization and so on. So that's from the product side. From the go-to-market perspective, we have been doing like a lot of work on defining our ICPs. Like, who do we want to sell with to? Who do we think is the real customer of VTEX that is going to be a happy customer? Because that's what matters to us. Reputation is very important. And we came to the conclusion that today we have two big ICPs. The first one, we call it retail omnichannel, and it's basically brands that have more than 50 physical stores, more or less, and that need to deal with all the omnichannel capabilities, but as well with pricing, inventory, and all this segmentation that needs to come from the physical store into the online. And the reverse process, right? Once you get the order, if I need to send it to a physical store or to a warehouse, if I need to do ship to store, ship from store, boppies, and so on. So that's one big, big side. And the other side is what we call the industrial slash B2B ICP, that is meant to basically integrate manufacturing companies, but as well distributors or distribution companies that are looking for B2B. Being both of them completely different, right? Like, some of them have requirements like punch out. You don't really see a manufacturer looking for punch out. It's going to be one on the distributor side. Or you're going to have eventually promotions that are more needed, or multi-brand that are more needed on the distributor side than on the manufacturing side. So we keep those particularities, but in terms of ICP, we call it a big one ICP, that is industrial slash B2B.
What do you see as kind of the major pitfalls when working with B2B companies, either manufacturer or distributors?
I would say it starts with alignment internally. Like, usually when you're talking about B2B, you have sales teams involved, you have IT teams involved, you have C-level involved as well. And I've seen many cases in which the internal team are not aligned on what they're looking for. And I'll tell you an example. Marketing or business teams look at B2B as a way to increase their revenue, right? Like, it's not just transferring the revenue they already have. Well, you can have IT telling you, no, all I want to do is stop receiving fax orders or email orders and just to put that in one unified place. But I'm not really expecting growth from that. So, I mean, it's so basic that they're not even aligned on what is the objective of the channel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that and that's important, because how are you going to measure the success of the cost of the project if you don't know, if you're not aligned on what is the outcome that is going to come from that? So that's the first point. And the second one is, um, I think many companies, especially when we're talking about greenfield projects, and there are many greenfield opportunities today, like customers that do B2B, big manufacturers. I'm even talking about Fortune 500 Fortune companies. They do B2B offline, but they don't digitalize the B2B at all. So when we're talking about these greenfield projects, I think the first pitfall is to believe that you need to do something huge. You need to spend a lot of money. You need to get the biggest SI involved. You need to, like, they don't really see the projects as MVP or phase MVPs when you need to start proving the value of the portal and then going to something bigger. And that's when it gets complicated without needing to be complicated. I think that's my main point. Like in many cases, we can make it happen in a smooth, easy, yes, MVP way, um, and to prove the value and to prove the revenue of the channel, and then to advance to something more complex or more sophisticated.
Well, it's also a way to get more budget, right? So if you can prove out a small use case, get either efficiency or revenue from that that's quantifiable, you can roll that into something bigger. I also think that if you're doing some massive transformation, unless you're doing an ERP thing along with it, there's like it's unnecessary to do 18-month projects anymore. You
Yeah.
know, like we should be thinking 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road, not 12, 15, 18, 24 months like so often happens. So no,
I
I really,
agree. And there
you,
is the ramp up process, like you have your customers that are used to buy in a specific way. You need to think on how you're gonna transfer them into a new portal or channel. What is the benefit that they're gonna have? You need to train them in many times. Like you want those customers to migrate to your new portal. They just don't know how to do it. So it's gonna be easier for them to grab the phone and call to the sales rep or as they used to do in the past instead of going into a new channel. So there is a lot of training enabling here, training your sales rep, making sure that he knows that he can as well use the channel for his own benefit. It's not like the channel is replacing the sales rep, but the channel is making it easier even for the sales
mhm.
rep to sell more than before, right? To make the sales rep more efficient, as you were saying before. So I completely align. I think showing the first numbers and making the first taking the first steps, I think that's the right path to go. And again, we still see many companies that want to, they come with this huge scope. I think that composability also plays a role on this, like many companies are still wanting to jump directly into composability without really know what it means, without understanding if they actually need like an external engine for something, or again, if they can start small, prove it out, and then go for a composable approach. So yeah, these are still I would say the same pitfalls that we have seen for the last 4 or 5 years.
I find a lot of companies spending more time thinking about architecture than customer. And it should be the opposite way, right? We should be thinking about how would a customer adopt it? How would we align our organization around this? And then, of course, you want to pick the right architecture and, technology and architecture fit. But that's not as important as finding the right customer and an internal fit for what you're doing. That's pretty fascinating.
It's
I
it's a combination, right? Like, I mean, at the end, as you said, architecture matters because you don't want to be
absolutely matters.
refactoring the architecture every time that you find something new. But as you said, the architecture needs to serve the customer.
That's right.
And B2B is a very broad term, like you have such a different customers and experiences in B2B. You have the customer that just needs to find something quick and he doesn't care about experience and navigation and blah blah blah. He just wants to put an order, import a file, and that's it. But you still have the customer as well in B2B that wants to check. Maybe if you're a fashion company and you have a showroom and they want to see the experience before they actually buy massively. You have the B2B that it's meant to be just an order entry. So yeah, as you said, it really depends on the customer.
I think my point was I think companies either overemphasize architecture or underemphasize it. They don't place it correctly in the priorities, right?
Yeah.
They'll either be architecture first and then customer second, or they won't think about architecture at all,
Yeah.
which is also a mistake, right? It needs
Yeah.
to be prioritized correctly. I, you know, I, being a global, organization, we get to see a lot of other cultures and a lot of other countries and how they do business. But I would love for the audience to hear, like, when you see the regional differences, like, what are some of the nuances between regions when it comes to B2B, Latin America, Europe, US, and others that you visited?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and it really varies a lot. And I'm gonna start by saying that Up until today, I think many customers, companies, or even countries don't know and kind of underestimate a bit regions like Latin America when it comes to e-com. And they're actually like, I mean, it's impressive what Latin America is doing in terms of commerce, right? Especially on the B2C side, maybe not as much on the B2B side. But I just wanted to say, like, in many cases, things that we have seen here or that we're seeing right now, we did those like years ago in Latin America, or even in EMEA for different companies. And let me give you an example. Like a couple of years ago, like 6 years ago, more or less, we did, I believe, the first B2B to B in EMEA that was for Unilever. So basically, what Unilever was planning to do, and they actually did it with us, was to create a different portal when they can sell the brands itself. But instead of being Unilever doing the fulfillment of those products, having the distributors actually receiving the order directly and fulfilling the orders to the final customers. And the final customers were basically SMB, right? Like small retailers that it's not too easy for them to buy from Unilever. So it was a way to open the market of Unilever products and distributors products to a new audience. And again, involving and integrating those partners into the process instead of bypassing the distributors. So that's the famous B2B2B. And again, the first one that we saw, at least in VTEX, was in EMEA, was not here in the US. I would say 3 years ago, we started to see more B2B2B in the US with companies such as Steel. They don't run with us in the US, but they run with us in different countries. And they also do this, enabling the partners, the dealers in their case, to be the ones receiving the order directly from the final customer instead of breaking the distribution channel with the dealer, because at the end, they need the dealer, right? They don't want to bypass the dealer. They don't want to create any kind of conflict with the dealer itself. So I think when it comes to B2B2B, or basically this channel management, we have seen more cases and even training in EMEA than in the US. And in the US, just starting, like I said, like a couple of years ago. Um, on the opposite side, where we see US and North America much more advanced, is in complex B2Bs. And when I say complex, I mean the product itself that is being sold. In many cases, we're dealing with, let me give you an example, Pierce Manufacturing. Like they sell defense trucks, and it's not easy and trivial to buy a defense truck from a portal, right? And they managed to create this experience where I can see the whole product. I can make a configuration of the different SKUs that I need to buy. I can actually like see the image of how the product is gonna look like in reality. Of course, they sell the aftermarket pieces as well. So I think the US is more diversified when it comes to the kind of product or the kind of customer that is looking to do a B2B. I would say those are some of the differences in terms of regions.
You guys had in your most recent earnings call, some great information in there. First of all, about what you're doing, but I found it interesting because you actually called out a B2B company. So many times in these large commerce companies, it's all about the B2C logos they're acquiring and the brands and the cool, sexy brands that they have. And then the B2B manufacturers or distributors are not mentioned. But you guys had a pretty major distributor that you called out. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's USESI, US Electrical Services. That's one of the largest, basically, distributors in the US. It's a very interesting case because of a couple of reasons. The first one is they were not greenfield when they came to VTEX. They had already in the past another experience with a commerce platform. There were some gaps, like the lack of flexibility, especially because we're talking here about a multi-brand distributor. So in the case of USCSI, they sell products from 12 different brands. So they need a lot of segmentation, personalization, even restriction, right? Like an admin user sometimes cannot change or cannot deal with information coming from one brand. So you need to have the roles basically associated to the brand that you are selling. So this kind of flexibility is something that they missed in the past, and one of the reasons why they chose VTEX. And the second reason why it is very interesting is because the composability that I mentioned before, they only chose to go composable when they realized they needed it and there was a real need and there was real ROI coming from that. I'm talking specifically about the search. Like they started with VTEX search because we have a very robust search engine. Then at some point they realized they needed a best of breed solution, and they migrated into that world. So I think the optionality in terms of technology of choosing between something out of the box or just writing off an out of the box solution and putting something that is best of breed and is specialized on what you're looking for is a very good case of what we call pragmatic composability. And the last thing that I mentioned is the multi-brand. Like that's a very important aspect that not all the platforms can deal with this, with the fact that you need to manage different brands and again different experiences in one single platform. And there is something very nice that we're doing with USCSI that is something that we call the concierge commerce. Concierge commerce basically is the possibility for you to have a sales rep joining a call live with one of the customers while the customer is navigating into the website, and eventually even if the customer needs help to place the order on behalf of the customer. So a lot of personalization but as well buying on behalf capabilities. That's
That's
another
really
thing that we're going to
interesting.
see in USCSI.
I I think that's really interesting because I think in this world of agentic where everybody's saying people aren't going to be involved, that seems like such a practical kind of feature to have a sales rep be able to do kind of co-parent the order along right the way. I think that's a pretty amazing feature. You had other features I know that you guys have worked on recently. You have some pretty advanced workflows around approvals, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there is a big focus of the company and of the R&D in the B2B segment. Probably you heard that in the earnings call. And if you go into our VTEX vision, you're going to see that one of the four main components is B2B. So there are a lot of features that are being delivered, like the workflows that you mentioned, the buying policies as
Hmm.
well, the punch out, so kind of a native accelerator for punch out as well. So yeah, a huge focus is coming on B2B right now. And I
That's
mean, Justin, we have a guideline in the company that we cannot announce customers after they go live. Um, I'm 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 dying to tell you the names. I cannot because of the guideline, but probably like in the next earnings call, you're gonna see already some names, very strong names in B2B as well.
reach out to them, and then ask if they want to be on, and we'll announce them together.
Okay, I love
How
that.
about that?
I love that.
We'll announce them together.
I
No,
love that.
I saw a bunch of other things. A lot of like buyer catalogs, pricing and payment setups, branch structures for buyer organizations, which is that's a hard thing in itself when you have a buyer organization that has departments and each department has different rules and workflows and who approves whose order.
Yep.
And it sounds like you guys have really kind of dug deep into that, especially on the procurement side. Well, I was going to ask about the like. Can you back up and talk about the multi-brand? Like what makes that a hard thing to do in commerce?
So when you're dealing with multi-brand scenarios, like again, most of the companies, they want to have a backend that is unique. They don't want to have 12 different backends to manage each of the brands, right? But at the same time that you need to
When
have
we
a go
just to
ahead, go ahead.
clarify, when we talk
Yeah.
about brands, we're talking often about basically kind of two business units within the same company that might have two different experiences, right?
Yeah. Like I'm a sales rep and I can sell products from Unilever, but I also can sell products from Kellogg's, whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
different brands, like
Mm-hmm.
front end driven.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Uh, and again, this is mostly for distributors, of course. So it's the right how to find the right combination between having that single administration because it's gonna make it easier in a day by day, but at the same time, as I mentioned before, I need to have some rigid, let's say, rules, like in terms of users. Like in my admin, in my backend, I cannot have the same sales rep selling one brand and selling the other brand, even for the concierge commerce that I mentioned before. Like, how do I know that the customer that is navigating right now in the website and wants to talk to someone, the right sales rep is going to get that consultation, that request?
Hmm.
Because again, you cannot have any sales rep selling any kind of brand. So there is a lot of rules basically when it comes to assignment, roles. And of course, like, what if I want to create just a campaign for one of the brands? What if I got the right from one of the manufacturers to apply a promotion in just one of the brands? How can I do that in an easy way without impacting the other brands? Search, what if I want to promote one of the brands? What if I want to do a boost in the search for just one of the brands as well? So there are a couple of features basically that distributors are looking for when it comes to multi-brand. It's like multi-site as well. It's not trivial. Not all the platforms can deal with multi-site today in a simple way. And just to mention what I was gonna say before on the features that you were bringing up, the workflow and so on, there is a very important case, and this one I can mention, that is Office Depot. We are migrating Office Depot for B2B and B2C. Partially, the B2B is already live. So there are many channels involved when you talk about B2B with ODP. You have sales reps, you have the self service, you have punch out, you have PDF orders, you have email order, you have call center. Like there are many, many channels. So this has been a phase or a rollout migration, but it helps us a lot to understand some of the product needs. And this is why, or this is where many of these features that you mentioned before are coming from, like a real need, a real customer asking for that. That's part of our philosophy. We develop and we invest in what our customers are asking for and what we know they actually need.
Hmm.
And I mean that other customers are going to be able to use, right? Because we're a
Yeah.
SaaS company, so whatever we develop is going to be possible to be used by any other brand.
A couple months ago, your CEO made great waves in the commerce world by a pretty well thought out piece that he posted on LinkedIn about leaving the mock alliance. Not, and it was, I thought it was really well done because he wasn't leaving composable. He wasn't disregarding the architecture that VTEX and so many other companies were built on and the ideals of that, but talking about, you know, the organization itself. How what's been kind of the impact since he wrote that? I thought it was very well done. Outside of him not coming on here and talking about it, yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Oh, I can call him and he will be more than happy to join you in a
Tell him
discussion.
next time he has something big to announce,
Oh yeah, no,
come
no.
on here.
Consider it done. He's gonna, and by the way, he still receives requests to join like podcasts and so on and
Yeah, I
webinars
bet.
about this topic. So as you said, it was big. I think no one was expecting it. And as you said, it wasn't a movement against the architecture itself. Like
Right.
VTech, since day one, we have been Mac driven. Like we are microservice, we are cloud. So there is nothing against that. What we were trying to tell the world is this is not a must for every case. And
Mm.
this is what became, right? Like basically, we were receiving randomly RFPs with the title Mac composable RFP. And then you were looking at the cases and you were like, why? Like, why do you guys feel like you need to go for this approach right
Mhm.
away? And people didn't have an answer. You know, it was more like everyone is talking about this. Like, I guess we should do it as well, right? Like, it's kind of the trend. If the others do it, we do it as well. And the result of this, in many cases, was positive. Like again, and we're able to recognize that. But in many cases, you had overcomplicated projects, as you mentioned before, 18 months implementation, 2 years implementation projects that after 2 years, they had to roll back on the composable approach, on the extremism of the composable approach, because the team wasn't ready, because it wasn't necessary, because it was extremely expensive and it wasn't sustainable. So I think it's an invitation to basically double check on what you are doing as a brand, making sure that whatever you are deciding in terms of architecture, you need it, and mainly it's gonna bring a return for you. So this is what we call the pragmatic composability, the thoughtful composability. Is doing it
Yeah.
with a reason.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that original conversation we had where, you know, where is architecture in the importance of the project? It's a very important part of the project. Is it number one? Maybe in some cases it should be number one. I think there's plenty of projects where they're truly IT technical driven projects. The architecture is probably one of the top things. But in many cases, like you said, making thoughtful decisions about architecture, I think is really important. I really like this approach. Tell me about VTEX. How do you differentiate yourselves from the other commerce platforms that are out there outside of having a well-spoken CEO, co-CEO?
Many reasons besides that. That is a strong one. Um, so I'll tell you, we one of those cases that I mentioned to you that I cannot unfortunately disclaim yet. Um, it's a big brand. Is 100 Fortune companies, and the interesting thing with them is that they were running a different platform for B2C. So in theory, it was going to be so much easier for them to just grab what they had in B2C and do the same for B2B, right?
Mm.
Like, and easier in terms of implementation, but also easier in terms of commercials. Like, they already had a deal, they already had an MSA in place, so why not, right? Um, and even in that scenario, we were able to secure the deal and to win this deal because of two main reasons. The first one is there was a lot of time consumption during the implementation. It was a very hard implementation because many of the things they were looking to do were not out of the box. So even if you could do it, like by extending the platform, they were not there. So of course
Mm.
that created a kind of over engineering during the project, and that traumatized a little bit the team, just to use a word, right? So the offer that VTEX has, the out of the box offer, is something that always surprises customers and brands. Like when they see our demo, when they take a look at the platform, when they get an instance and they understand how much they can do without the need of getting a external provider, a third party provider, or even extending the platform, that's a big reason to say I like this platform. But at the same time, the second reason on top of this is that even if we offer a lot out of the box and all the features that you mentioned for B2B, so catalog segmentation, price tables, the workflows, the buying policies, and so on, we also offer something that is called the VTEX IO. That is basically this low code framework that allows our customers to extend because they're going to need to extend. Like a customer like this one, my God, I'm dying to say the name, but I
Yeah,
cannot. Uh,
we're gonna make you slip, I think.
I know. I'm trying to control myself. I'll be back in 6 months, Justin, and I'll be able to say it.
Sounds great.
Um, but basically to be able to customize and to extend the platform and personalize what they need. For example, at the checkout, like they need to have different fees depending on what is the delivery kind of policy they're choosing, right? So if it is one delivery, or also because of the quantity of the orders. Because if I'm gonna need a truck to deliver that order, then I'm gonna have an extra fee at the checkout. So all those kind of checkout customizations, live calls, and so on, we were able to replicate in just a couple of hours, days in our platform without the need of a heavy investment and a lot of engineering because of this extensibility feature that the platform offers. So I think it's the right combination between
Mm.
out of the box, but it's still giving you the chance to create on top, extend. And by the way, when you extend in VTEX, you're still using our infrastructure. So there is a huge benefit in terms of savings.
You've mentioned, not by name, but a number of large companies in this. What is your kind of ICP? If someone's listening to this, kind of going through the process, starting to think about platform selection, what type of companies and size companies should consider VTEX?
So usually companies that have already had an experience with commerce and mainly with legacy systems, and they need to find something that is more agile, something that is more efficient in terms of TCO as well, and something that can unify those different channels. Like that's our core. Like our main messaging right now is we are the backbone of connected commerce because we want to be able to become that place where you can centralize. Again, B2B, but B2B can be the sales rep, the soft portal, the punch out, the PDF orders, the Excel sheet that you need to import and to make it become an order, the call center, and the B2C as well if you have a B2C. So I think that's the dream come true, like that's the best spot for us. Legacy migrations, complexity in terms of channels, complexity in terms of catalogs as well. Like we can deal with very large catalogs, and yeah, especially when you really want to be, I would say, pragmatic.
Mm.
I think that's a sweet spot.
Do you have, is there a bent towards more distribution or more manufacturing in that?
So not really. I mean, the product can really support both scenarios, and we have cases in both scenarios. So I mentioned USCSI in the distribution side, but we also have RAR in the manufacturing side. We
Mm.
also have Pierce Manufacturing. That's another case. We have Colgate Palmolive. We support them as well in B2B. So it really, from a product perspective, we can really fit both scenarios.
How does VTEX go to market to customers? Do you have services yourselves? Do you work through a partner network?
So we have a very strong ecosystem, right? Like SIs, but also ISVs. We have more than 1,000 like ISVs connected around the world. For B2B especially, I would say, so we always go to market directly. Like we have our own team, we have our product team, we have our sales team. So in most of the cases, I would say 99% we're gonna be present like in the sales process, especially because the sales process is something very important for us. Like we really make sure we cover architecture and scope as much as we can. I think there's always going to be the scenario that we don't know what we don't know, but we really try to minimize the risk during the sales and the discovery process. So VTEX has a very big team. Like we have around 1,300 employees around the world. In the US, we have sales, marketing, solution engineering. We have partners, the channel team. We have the solution architects. We have the commerce engineers. So from sales to support,
Mm.
implementation, and customer success, we do it all directly. And by the way, it's a big differentiator. I think you saw it in the voice of the customer quadrant. Like our customers really, really appreciate the fact that we're involved in those process, and we kind of own the responsibility directly. However, we leverage partners, as I said before. So in the SI ecosystem, we work with uh, big SIs, of course, as Accenture. We work with EY. We work with Deloitte. We also have the medium SIs like Echidna or Trika Technologies or VML. So those are also our partners. So I would say, a very robust SI ecosystem around the world and also in North America.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I didn't mention at the beginning I was going to, but in the most recent Gartner report, VTEX won the Customer Choice Award for the second year, which I actually of all the segments in that report, I think that's probably the most important one because it's the one that says customers like you, and customers rarely like their platforms, right? Customers like you and they would choose you again, which is a pretty impressive mark to say.
I,
What do
I love
you?
it because it's easier to speak on your behalf, but in this case you
Mhm.
have the customers speaking on your behalf. And this is one of the things that I always tell my customers, especially when they say, we don't know VTEX as much as we know X or Y. And it's like, okay, but I can bring right now to you 5 names just to talk about myself and how happy and satisfied they are with the product. And I know not all the vendors can do this. So
That's right.
it's a big recognition, as you mentioned before.
And what often actually is missing from the analyst reports, they take the data directly from the vendors and it's not put through the filter of customers. Like
Yeah.
what is real, what is fake, what is the roadmap, or what's real on the roadmap? How have they delivered on the roadmap in the past? I mean, those are all questions you ask customers, and so many times it's not taken into account. So I love that they included that. Whether they took the rest of it into account, who knows? But yeah, that's amazing. What do you see as the future of commerce related to manufacturers and distributors?
So a lot is coming. I would say I would be silly if I don't mention AI, right? Like,
Yeah.
of course, there is a big focus of the company in AI. um I think we're not doing it really in a rush, like it's not like we need to have AI for tomorrow and do whatever you want just to show to the analysts that we have AI. No, I think we're really doing a thoughtful process on where our customers need AI, and there are a couple of areas that we have identified, and there are many features and releases coming on that. On B2B specifically, so search, we are adding more AI capabilities in search,
Mm.
and also like contract management. That's a big piece of B2Bs, and that's a
Oh,
very
wow.
complicated piece. So we're adding as well a lot of AI into basically making easier the administration of the contracts, the updates of the contracts. Many times when you change a contract, prices per customer are going to change. So once you have the agentic commerce, making sure that those new assignments are going to be replicated in the right way and in a fast way, that's going to bring a lot of efficiency for our B2B customers. So those are big areas. And as I mentioned before, punch out as well. So we are creating more out of the box connectors for punch out, like for example, trade centric. There is one like out of the box or pre-built connector with trade centric, and also product recommendation. That's another area where we're adding a lot of AI.
Where do you guys see agentic heading practically over the next 12 to 18 months?
Definitely logistics, so not necessarily connected to the commerce platform itself, but I think warehouse is a huge,
Yeah.
huge place where AI is already adding a lot of value and savings and efficiency, delivery as well, like all the fulfillment part, the last mile for sure. And then on the customer facing scenario, um, as I mentioned before, search, product recommendations, content personalization as well. I think the results there are a little bit shy because agentic is evolving, right? So it's not something that you can just install today or start using today, then grab effects drastically at the next day. Like just to give an example, the ChatGPT, like we're seeing a lot of search coming from ChatGPT, but we're not seeing yet a lot of conversion happening in ChatGPT yet. So there's going to be an evolution in all these agentic, basically, investments. So yeah, I would say definitely logistics, fulfillment, delivery, last mile, and then customer facing search, personalization, and segmentation.
Mm. Amazing. Daniela, thank you. Ironically, Rio is one of my favorite cities in the world. I don't
Oh,
know.
we have a big office there, so now you have another reason to
I'll have
go
another
visit.
reason. I haven't been there in quite a few years. I've had my two favorite cities actually are in Latin and South America,
You know that we have this.
Colombia and Rio.
Huh, I'm from Colombia,
Oh,
so
are you?
there you go. Yeah. So there is one big event that we do every year, and it's in São Paulo. It's not in Rio, but we usually take some of our customers in the US, analysts, like we had IDC in the past, USCSI join us as well in the past. We had this year like around 20,000 people in São Paulo. It's called the VTEX Day. And there is a lot of B2B focus as well. So
Wow.
in terms of product,
We'll
in
have to
terms
do
of
something together
cases.
there. We'll have
Yep,
to do
let's do
something
it.
together in the future. I do love the country. I really like Sao Paulo too. I've
We would
enjoyed
love
that.
that, Justin.
Oh, that's great. Daniela, thank you so much. Looking forward to, we're going to do a couple more of these very, very soon, and really, really looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Justin. I love the experience and the opportunity. Thank you.
Manufacturers, distributors, leaders in the zone. If you're building B2B, this the podcast throne. The industry's heartbeat, we're setting the tone. Turn insights to actions, it's how empires are grown. We're talking change management, breaking resistance. Strategies so sharp, they redefine persistence. Customer adoption, it's more than retention. It's building a movement, commanding attention. It's the B2B e-commerce show, where the vision is clear and the strategies glow. from the top of the globe. We're the pros who know. Turn the volume up loud, it's time to grow. We bring news, big topics, insights to spark. From the boardroom's glow to the warehouse dark. Digital transformations, the path we're paving. Helping you lead through the change you're facing. This is more than a podcast, it's the industry's voice. Giving you the tools to make the right choice. No fluff, just facts, no hype, just action. The show where solutions are more than a fraction. It's the B2B e-commerce show, where the vision is clear and the strategies glow. From the top of the globe, we're the pros who know. Turn the volume up loud, it's time to grow.
This is your guide to the digital race. Practical advice, no time to waste. So tune in, gear up, and let's own the space. It's the B2B e-commerce show, the industry's base.